All right, let's get going. Um, so thank you all for joining us today, especially as we're getting so close to the holiday season. I know folks are busy with end of year and everything else that goes around this time of year. But I'm really excited for today's session. I think we've got some great things to talk about. We're going to be sharing information on Vision AI. Many of you may already be using some form of Vision AI, or maybe you're just here to learn how to get started. We'll review a bit about how it works, some of the really popular use cases that might be applicable to you, and some things to consider when we look at up-leveling your production. So, Janine, if we can hop over to the next slide. So let's just do some quick introductions of who's here today. We've got a really fantastic group of experts here to walk us through everything. I'm really excited about that. We'll be joined a little bit later by Stuart Farber. He's the VP of IT for Clemens Food Group. Stuart's been driving innovation at Clemens for almost 12 years now. He's got broad tech experience from before his time in food and beverage. And he'll be chatting with ClearObject's own Heidi Knowles, our head of growth, on how they are using Vision and how they gained alignment internally for testing and implementation. Then we'll jump over to our Director of Operations and AI expert, Chuck Brunette, who is sadly appearing to us as Anonymous User 1. This is a new platform for us, but we'll figure it out. So thank you for bearing with us. And Chuck is an expert in AI and in how we work with folks. He's led many of our major projects. He's got really deep experience in both vision and generative AI solutions for manufacturing and retail. So we've got a lot to cover today. Let's jump in, and we'll have some time for questions at the end. So if you look down in your lower right, you will see that there's a thing there for questions. Please take the time, put them in there. We'll do our best to address them at the end. If we don't get to them, we'll reach out to you with answers afterwards. But we love to hear the questions you guys have. We want to make sure we're addressing everything you need to know in this session and in future sessions. So thank you for your participation. All right, let's get going and dive in. Next slide, please, Janine. So, one before that. There we go. So I'm guessing a lot of you folks are aware of this already. It's probably why you joined us today. But artificial intelligence is everywhere. You're hearing about it everywhere. And it's already having a significant impact on how manufacturers are working. And that can range from how decisions are being made in the boardroom to how results are being measured and monitored on the factory floor. And with the power and what AI can do, with that increasing so rapidly, while the costs of AI are decreasing, it's a really great time for early adopters and even slightly later stage adopters to get in and reap some big competitive rewards. So we can go on to the next slide. So the consulting firm Deloitte, they ran a survey on AI adoption in manufacturing. This was out to executives, operational leaders, and not surprisingly, 93% of those companies surveyed, they all agreed that AI is going to be a pivotal technology to drive growth and innovation. Now, I have no idea what the other 7% believe. They believe something, but I'm certainly in that 93% camp as well. And now there is some disagreement on the exact role that AI will play in manufacturing. Some of these folks are focused on generative AI to help with things like product design, market analysis, other strategic initiatives. But most agree that one of the primary and initial use cases for AI will be vision AI in manufacturing. So computer vision, it's been around for years in one form or another. Recent years, we've seen a lot of advances in the introduction of AI for vision analysis and classification. I want to pop to the next slide. And then 83% of the respondents, they're really bullish on smart factories, how AI, vision AI will transform production this decade in the next 5 years. So these leaders are either already working with AI technology or they're working really quickly to test and adopt AI. Next slide. And other things on impact on manufacturing. So part of why smart factories are taking on even more importance is, as you guys probably know, manufacturing is becoming even more challenging and more competitive. The cost of labor, materials, cost of everything is really going up. The numbers on this slide come from a survey by Food Engineering, but the results are actually applicable across all of manufacturing. So 80% of folks responding to the survey, they saw an increase in material costs. Now, a little over half of those say the cost was less than 10% increase, but the rest were seeing an increase in cost of over 10%. And 9% of the respondents said that their cost increases were over 25%. So that's a huge hit. And then almost half of the folks surveyed talked about how their production facilities were understaffed. Often that's because of lack of qualified talent, or maybe unexpected turnover. And of course, COVID had a huge impact here. A lot of people left, and getting those people to come back has been challenging. And then you layer on top of that, that 71% are saying that the increases in labor costs for that qualified labor. So when you do get them back, that also costs more. It's really cutting into margins across the board. Next slide, please, Janine. So how are manufacturers like you, how are they trying to increase productivity? Because increases in productivity is really how we combat everything I just shared on that last slide. So this is what your peers are considering. They're looking at a variety of tactics to decrease costs, increase productivity, and competitiveness. And not surprisingly, I'd say equipment upgrades top the list, but that can mean a variety of things depending on what you're looking at. It might mean retooling entire factory floors. That could run into millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, depending on how large you are. But for others, they might just be looking at smaller incremental changes on the factory floor that will still give them a big ROI. Other folks who responded to the survey, they're focusing on things from increasing training, improving their maintenance protocols, new ways of sharing data. And what I loved when I saw this survey and these results, and this is selfish because we are a Vision AI company, but Vision AI can be used to help you with all of these initiatives on this chart. I touched on a little bit here. Chuck is going to dive deeper into this in a few minutes. But Vision AI, computer vision, automated optical inspection, whatever you're calling it locally, can help with each of these top-ranked tactics. And it might be easier to get started than you realize. All right, next slide. And this is my last slide, and then you'll get to the real interesting folks. But some things I just want you to think about as we go through the rest of this webinar. I want to make sure that you're thinking about the right questions as you approach AI for your business. So some folks are like, hey, we need to be in AI. AI, everybody's doing AI, we need to do it. AI is a solution to a problem you have. It's just a tool to help you figure things out, things that you've already been working on and considering. So while AI may be sexy and what everybody's doing, we want to make sure that you are thinking about it as ways to actually solve real problems that you're having. So other advice, don't hyper-focus on one potential solution. AI can be used in a variety of ways. Like, think about the benefits of each and the different ways that those solutions can be applied. Think about your data, how you're capturing it, how you're storing it, how it's organized. That's something that a company like ClearObject can help you think through too, is are you ready to use that data and apply it in other ways? And then it's okay to dip your toe in. You don't need to jump in with a 3, 5, 10-year project on this. ClearObject here, we always recommend you start with a proof of value, a way to demonstrate what Vision AI can really do for you, where we use your real data, your real processes, and demonstrate that, hey, yeah, there are some simple solutions. And sometimes we can do that in as little as days or weeks. And then once you prove out that concept, you can think about how and where to scale across your organization. So, all right, that's it for me for now. Let's switch gears. Let's bring on Stuart Farber. Again, he's the Vice President of IT for Clemens Food Group, and Heidi Knowles, our Head of Growth here at ClearObject. They've been working on some really cool projects over at Clemens. So let's hear from them on how it all came together. So welcome, guys, and thanks for being here.
Yeah, no, thank you, Todd. I appreciate it. I'm very excited to have a conversation with Stuart today, just talking about, certain AI projects potentially that he has going on, as well as his thought process and how he was able to, from an internal perspective, be able to sell AI to, upper management and even, some of the folks that sit on the plant floor. But with that said, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of who Clemens Food Group is, but they're the leading pork supplier with over 125 years of experience. And I had the pleasure of touring the facility, and it is very neat how they do things. It's a very clean facility, which obviously you would think that it is, but they go above and beyond. They are really committed to doing different types of technical advancements within the industry, and by leveraging AI, also that enhances their product quality, improves efficiency, and ensures sustainability. So with that said, I really appreciate, Stu, you joining us today. I think you and I met a little over a year ago when you were looking at Gen AI. So I want to start with that because we'll get into the Vision AI stuff here in a little bit. But from a Gen AI perspective, I would love your take and your point of view of the what, when, how, because there's so many different Gen AI platforms out there. And I think one was security that was most important to you, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so in general, when we're looking, one of our roles in IT is to look at technology, what's available to us. At the same time, we follow what I call business-driven IT, where the business owns the decision on what IT works on. So we go to a department and say, hey, we have this idea, what do you think? And really, they take ownership of that project or any project. So when we first looked at, when Gen AI came out, well, not when it came out, but when it started getting popular, we started to look at, okay, we should be doing something, but what's out there today is not secure. So we lock down the access to our team members and don't let them use generic. And we look to find a secure solution. And frankly, we haven't really solved that totally yet. We're doing a little bit there, but we're doing it in a controlled way. Some key users have access to a secure platform, but we haven't rolled it out fully yet.
Okay. And what key users are those that use Gen AI that you oversee from like a technology perspective? Is it more marketing or project management? Like, where do you see AI being used at Clemens?
I think it can be used everywhere. I think we've focused on, there's two solutions of Gen AI we're looking at. One is like ChatGPT, where it's a simple ask questions, scour the internet for data. And I see that being used a lot by people creating presentations, communications, HR. And then the other type, we're looking at a combination of machine learning and natural language processing, where we're looking to do some reporting tools. And that we're actually prototyping that now with a vendor. And we're basically starting with the sales data. For us, we have about 45 KPIs, and that's the first thing we're doing, where it's our model, our data, and really deep diving into insights and how getting answers about our results.
Okay, no, that's awesome. And what started you down the path of Vision AI? Was this something that you were looking at in tandem with Gen AI or AI in general? But where was the stage that you started looking at Vision AI? Because I think the folks on the call today are probably in different stages of their journey. Some are just now trying to figure out where to put it. Some are, already implemented. So I would love to hear how your journey came about with the Vision piece of AI.
Sure. So again, when you're scouring for what technology are out there, I meet with a lot of vendors about what their capabilities are. And when I get excited by something, I bring the business in, let them see that technology. And in the end, if they think there's a fit for them, we support them to use that technology. So we're doing our first proof of value with you guys doing Vision. And we have a lineup of projects after that, when we can prove out that the value's there. And that's how we did it. We went to the business, we showed them the technology with you guys, and then they really came up with a list of projects and they chose the first one.
Yep. No, that's perfect. Was there any challenges or like hurdles that you ran into when talking to your leadership, your peers, and even the folks that do sit on the plant floor? Was there any like obstacles that you had to overcome with just the fear and doubt of AI and people being, indifferent. So just didn't know if you had any challenges that you could walk through, if at any.
Yeah, it's actually a little bit of the opposite. It's actually IT slowing it down, at least at our company and many companies I talk to, right? Business perspective, people think, hey, this is the latest, hottest thing. We need to have it. What is it? I don't know, but we need to have it, right? So for us, the way we do it with this proof of concept or proof of value, really, they were really willing to try because they want it. And at the same time, right, we want to spend the money where it's making money. So really, it's really about which area we're going to use it in first. And once we have it in those areas, and the same thing would happen. We would do an ROI for every time we're going to use it and prove that value before we get going.
Okay. And then how did you choose like which use cases that you wanted to move forward with? Because I know you had a list. Like, was it more about saving money, optimizing, just your process, safety, things like that, quality inspection? Like, where did you land on this is our number one Vision AI project we want to work on?
Yeah. So again, doing business-driven IT, it's really about the engagement of the team members. In the area we chose, they were super engaged and excited to do it. And for their area, it was the largest ROI, right? So that combination of an engaged team member and then the ROI there, that's really why we chose that one first.
Okay. No, that makes perfect sense. And I think I would challenge, any and everyone that's on this call that's in like the manufacturing food space to sit down with your team and figure that out, like from a level of effort versus, the ROI that you get into it or get from it. And so I think that's really good exercise that a lot of people need to do almost in a group session where, ideation sessions and brainstorming and coming up with that. So I think that's a good advice. But what other advice or tips or tricks would you give to other manufacturing leaders that are in your space that are potentially considering AI, vision, Gen AI, whatever? What advice would you give them? Because I've seen where folks in your role, the CEO's like, hey, what's this AI thing? Go figure it out, implement it into, our business. And then some of the, folks like the operations people are like, whoa, don't come in and, mess up my process and how it is. But what tips could you give folks that are in your role?
Yeah, so I think for those operation folks, it's allowing them to see demos and see the value of it, right? Because once they do, they're going to want it because they're able to either do more with less people or do things they couldn't do before. So the example we're doing where we do inspections of a box, for example, we can't have people standing there and inspect boxes all day. We do samples. And so this will allow us to inspect every single box going forward. And whether we can control it to push the box off so it's fixed, or we at least do counts so we can see how big the problem is or when the problem gets worse. We're able to look at every single box now with vision where we couldn't do that with people. So that's one example of that type. And really, it's about keeping ownership in the departments and letting them really help us create that list, right? They want to work on. What are their priorities?
Yep, no, makes sense. One of the things that I've seen obstacles and different, challenges that people have, given me is the security aspect of it. Like, how are we keeping this secure? What is privacy concerns? Was any of those challenges that you had to overcome with? I know that you run all of IT for Clemens, so maybe the buck stops with you, but how do you figure that out from, security and privacy perspective?
Yeah, so it's a project by project basis, right? So the example he gave of like a generative AI, it's when you're using larger models and they're public models, you do have that concern. And frankly, we block those things, right? So you look at each individual product, see where the data is being stored, is the data mixed, and you worry about that, right? Well, who has access to that data? And that's really where you have to focus on. And with these type of models, they're really private, and you're able to see that your data can stay isolated.
Right. And then what is like the future for AI that you would see? Because I know back 15, 20 years ago, cloud was the big term that a lot of people used, and it changed, a lot. And then AI obviously is going to be changing a lot. Where do you see it in like 5, even 10 years? Do you feel like it's going to be more welcomed into, the manufacturing process? Do you see, like, not so much even with Clemens, but just in general from an AI perspective?
Yeah, being a mid-sized company, I think one of the things that we need to focus on is our vendors that we have bringing technology to us, right? So if we're buying systems today, in 5 years, it's going to have some embedded AI in it. So we're not going to have a choice, right? These equipment manufacturers are going to be adding value, right? And frankly, I remember when the iPhone and iPad started being big, and I went to a seminar, and they had iShoes, right? Everybody started sticking eye in front of it because they felt like we could add value, right? AI is going to be in everything we do going forward. We're going to need to buy equipment. We're going to need to have it in there, right? And so to me, that's the future. It's going to be embedded in everything we do.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. What I would like to do, just because I know I've asked you a couple of questions and led you, in a certain direction, I would love, if possible, if anybody does have any questions or wants to dive a little bit deeper into, how Stuart's using AI with his business, I would definitely welcome anybody to ask questions. I got a couple more for you, Stu, but I just wanted to open the floor up if anybody had questions to either put it in the chat or I'm not sure if we have a raise your hand ability, but just want to see if anybody had anything that they wanted to bring up. And Todd and Jenny, I'm assuming you guys can see that if they do come in. So Stuart, where do you see AI moving outside of like the general like manufacturing piece of your plant? Do you see it moving more into where you ever see not just the operations piece, but like in HR or in even recruiting or any of that? I don't know if you have your hands in any of that stuff, but just would love to understand how Clemens and other business units are using AI.
Yeah, I think it's the buzzword of choice today, and if you don't have it in your software, like HR software, if you don't have it in your ERP system, right, you're going to be behind really quickly. So all of our vendors and every vendor is embedding it quickly, right? And my role is to keep up to the latest versions of software so we can take use of those things. It's already being put into our HR packages, right? And we have to watch those things and test those things for bias, but it's going to help people and do their jobs easier. I think it's especially new people, right? Looking at some of the things, one of our vendors is SAP, and some of the things they're rolling out is doing ERP work is fairly complex. And they're going to put tools in there to help them answer questions and make it easier for them to do their job and come up to speed a lot faster. So our role, my role as a leader of IT is to make sure that I can get those tools in the hands of people doing those jobs every day.
Yep. No, makes perfect sense. We try to make everybody's job easier. Has there been any questions that came in, Todd? I just want to.
I will throw one in here. So has there been challenges, Stuart, or as you're thinking about this with everything from the HR and everything there, like your facility managers seem to be totally on board with experimenting, but as you roll things out more, has there been pushback or fear or confusion, or is there anything you're doing to make it easier on people to embrace the benefits of all this?
Yeah, I'd have to say it's the opposite again. The same thing I said before is really that people see ChatGPT and other things and they think the world's changing. We need to switch tomorrow. So in a lot of ways, it's about me slowing down to make sure we have a supportable enterprise level solution before we go live, right?
No, it makes perfect sense. We do have a question from the group. They're asking, how does one go discovering what AI platform would be the perfect fit to solve the issues you're trying to solve? The whole spectrum is saturated. 100% believe that, Daryl. I all the time people are asking me like, who does ClearObject compete against? And have you not seen where it's it's super saturated? I feel like everybody, just to Stu's point, puts AI somewhere in their marketing material. But Stu, how do you, I guess, figure out what player goes where and what maybe is your criteria that you look at when you choose? So.
Yeah, I mean, it's a standard process we do where we vet multiple vendors and we find out who has the best that meets our needs, right? But in this case, it's a little backwards because we're sort of finding technologies and making them available. So we're looking at vendors for that same case and scenario. So in generative AI, we looked at when I talked about that other project, we looked at multiple vendors. We found a vendor that fit us, right? That's a big part of it, right? Are we going to be a small fish in a big pond, a big fish in a small pond, or somewhere in the middle? Right? You make that decision every time you're doing a project. Do they have a team that can support our needs? Do they have proof that they've done that? So to me, it's like any other project. Are they going to keep our data secure? Are they going to be safe? whether it's AI or writing a piece of custom code, to me, it's not really much different. They're going to do the same due diligence you do for every project.
Yep, makes sense. I do have one other question that came in is how do you make a choice with AI technology? Like what was your research, Stu? Is it go to Google? Is it asking your peers? Like how did you go about researching different providers and AI platforms?
Yeah, I mean, in my role and the leaders across the industry, right, we do a lot of research and we look at different things, see who else is using it, talk to peers, see what they're doing, have a lot of meetings like this and join them and learn from it. So everything in the above, right? Reading books, reading a lot of websites, reading and talking to people is how you find out what's going on in the industry.
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Any other questions that you can think of, Todd? I'm trying to see if I see any more questions that had popped in, and I don't at this time. So I encourage people to ask questions. Anything that you guys would like to know from a leader of a technology at a pork manufacturer here in the U.S. Any questions that you may have, we're happy to get those after the webinar as well, and I can get some of those answered for you, and I'm happy to answer them as well. But just didn't know if anybody else had any questions. Todd, if you had any, or Janine, or even Chuck, and then we can throw it over to him to wrap us up.
Yeah, keep the questions coming. We'll have some time at the end as well, and I would guess you'll have some more. We're gonna actually jump over to. Well, let's do this one right now, and then I will kick it over to Chuck. Go through some of the other use cases we've been doing.
How are you using AI bots, AI twin, AI agents?
Yeah, we're not really doing too much there. We do some RPA. I wouldn't say it's AI based. It's more decision path, but we haven't really done much there yet.
Okay. Then there's another question that says, are you actively rejecting product using vision? Or will you be active? Yeah, will you be actively rejecting product using vision?
Not today.
Okay. At some point, if is that the case where you'll reject it, or I guess it just keeps moving on and you're getting data points from that?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said before, we work with the business, right? And the business drives. There's regulatory issues and things like that. So when we get to that project, when we make those kind of decisions, that's when that will happen. We're far from that type yet.
Yep.
Don't know.
Yeah, I will say with some of our other customers, because we're still proof of value with you, Stuart, and we're checking all those things out. Some of our other customers that are further along, they are actively rejecting product. A lot of them are using it as like human in the loop or AI in the loop solutions, where this just helps people realize, hey, this is something you should take a second look at. This is where you should look. And what they're finding is, yeah, they can pull out more things that are actually not to spec. And in some cases, even what's funny about human nature is sometimes people doing QA will go like, wow, nothing's been bad for a while. I better pull a few out to make sure I look like I'm doing my job. So you get a lot more false positives from humans. And the Vision AI, because you've got stricter guidelines around it, is really only pulling out the things that aren't correct.
Yep. And Stuart has a pretty cool tagline that I think he may or may not have stole from us, but I know that the one that when you're talking to people in operations, if a person can see it, our vision system can see it. And if you can make decisions based off that, then we can model whatever that you need to be able to have a very productive Vision AI system. So I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, Stu, but we do have one additional question that came in as well.
Yeah. So when we met with Heidi the first time with the operations, she said if a human can see it and make a decision based on what they're seeing, then Vision AI can do that. And it really helped them open up their eyes to what is capable of seeing, right? So I thought it was a really good, succinct way to say that. And it was you first.
Yes. Another question is, how are you using AI and R&D and intellectual property identification?
So we had an offsite where we got together in every group in the company and we talked about future AI projects. And some of that, what you're talking about there, we aren't doing it today, but we do have a roadmap for 2026, 2025, 2026, where we're for each area doing at least 1 or 2 projects. And, depending on what, like I said, business driven IT, what the business wants is the area we'll focus on.
Okay. Makes perfect sense to me. I don't know, Todd, if you want to move it on to Chuck B, but please keep the questions coming. Stu's going to chill with us until he's got to run at 2:00, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Stuart. I really appreciate your willingness to share with everybody how you're thinking about this for your business. And excuse me, as Heidi said, please do keep the questions coming. And hopefully you'll have some more as we go into this. So now we've got Chuck, who, or Anonymous User 1, as we call him in the spy game. And he will be walking us through some of those use cases that we're doing. And while I'm sure your productions are all unique in some ways, I think you'll see a lot of parallels between what we're doing with some of our other customers and issues you might be trying to solve internally at your company. So Chuck, thank you for joining us, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. Janine, if we can go to the next slide. So at its basic level, Vision AI just takes images or videos and creates data that can be used by people or computers, right? And Heidi mentioned the idea that if a person can see it, then Vision AI can see it and use it. But it goes a little more than that, right? It's if a camera can see it, then Vision AI can use it. There are cameras that can see things that the human eye can't. And so, it goes further than just normal vision. A lot of people will say a picture is worth 1,000 words. And with Vision AI, a picture can be worth 1,000 data points. But the key piece is understanding which of those data points are really important to your business. Maybe it is a product attribute like quantity or size or shape or color. Sometimes it is about understanding, is a process being properly carried out? So those are things that Vision AI can help with. And with Vision AI, there is automation of tasks, and hopefully getting additional data points leads to better informed decisions. So next slide, please. So for what components are part of a normal implementation, you do have vision hardware, which is going to be some combination of camera and lenses and lighting. We also have what we call Clear Vision at the edge, which is a local server that runs the vision models and creates inferences. And then the edge computing is good for when you need real-time inferences or you want to do an integration with PLCs so that you can make real-time adjustments. We also have a piece that is Clear Vision Hub, which allows visualization of what is going on the different systems. So you don't have to be right at the line to see what's going on. You can be at any computer and see not just the data points that are being created, but see live video of what is occurring. And we also offer the ability to store data in a company cloud. So if you want to keep that data for data warehousing or further analysis, there is that opportunity as well. So one of the questions that we get is, I already have sensors on my equipment, so why would I need vision as well? The point that we like to make is that vision can enhance and create data that other sensors cannot, right? A non-vision sensor may be able to tell you what is occurring and when, but it may not give you all of the other information about why did the event actually occur. Whereas with vision, you can see some things that you otherwise couldn't. A good example would be showing uptime and downtime. Well, that's great, but maybe knowing what you do during the process switch between uptime and downtime, or how actually responsive are things, are important to know, and that's information that vision can give you. Next slide, please. Yeah. All right. So another piece is, there are sensors. You're looking here at filling up a bottle, and there are flow valves that have automatic controls, but it is possible for some systems to gradually get out of compliance. And in this case, it would be either a timer or a flow meter that's opening and closing the valves. But those can shift a little bit, and a vision system can assist in understanding, is the equipment staying within the tolerances that are set, and then either alerting a person to go in and fix it, or if you're tied directly back into the equipment via PLC, sometimes the equipment can auto adjust as well. So even though you have sensors on your machines, vision can be a good complement to those. This highlights one use case that was particularly interesting. Many manufacturers run large lots or batches, but we do work with manufacturers that run low volume product as well. This is, if you think about the game that you'll see in magazines or newspapers or online that has multiple images and say, find the difference. There's 5 differences. Can you find them? We essentially put that into an AI model for one of our customers, where they created the first item within a batch, and that became the golden image that we used to compare the other implementations on. And you can see the middle one is a later build. That was the board of interest that we were comparing it to, and there is a lot to see on that board. And with AI, we were able to do the comparison and find the difference. And these are things that can be monotonous or difficult for a human to do. And the good thing with our model was the images didn't have to be exactly oriented in the same way. We were able to, through the use of our model, do that programmatically so that we could compare, and had good success where with normal models, low volume products like this don't really work because you need a lot of training data, or it becomes troublesome to retrain a model in between each SKU. But using this model, we were able to successfully implement something that really worked for the customer with low effort from them switching from SKU to SKU. All right, so I mentioned the idea of tying in vision into directly your PLCs. One of our customers allowed us to do this. In the top image, we are looking at essentially a lava flow of material and determining the position and the width of that stream going through. And in order to monitor that and feed it back into their system so that they could continue to create higher quality product and reduce the scrap. Because if the flow became too large or got out of position, it would create bad product. And so with that, they have been able to see a 500% return on investment, including reducing their carbon emissions by 50% and reducing their scrap rate by 5% as well. In the bottom image, we are looking at the application of a liquid onto product. And within the first day of us implementing this system, we discovered a nozzle that had been clogged and was no longer spraying the liquid. Our customer told us that it was possible that they could have run for 30 minutes to an hour, however long their quality checks are. And they would have had to scrap all of the material that had been created during that time. So that goes back to a little bit of what Stu was saying. The vision systems can always be on. They can always be looking at the product and alert you immediately if there is an issue, as opposed to normal manual quality checks, which occur only periodically. Another instance of an implementation we did for a customer was more around what they call a black swan event. So an event that is unlikely to occur, but if it does, the cost is extremely high. In this case, it was at a steel mill, and you can see the cranes are picking up ladles that are full of hot molten metal. And if one of those tips over, it can be catastrophic, not just from a monetary method, but also there's the risk to human life or human health. So being able to identify things just as simple as, is a crane hook engaged properly before lifting these, reduces risk for them. And again, the likelihood of it tipping over is not great, but the cost is truly severe. So vision systems don't necessarily have to be for something that will imminently occur. It can be used as a great risk mitigation tactic as well. Going along the idea of risk mitigation and reducing scrap, this was a case where there's a vent tube that is on this bottling machine. And if the vent tube goes missing, which occasionally it does, that means that there's product that has been contaminated. So what we wanted to do was reduce the amount of product that would need to be scrapped if one of these items had gone missing. So feeding this again directly back into the machine, you can stop the machine and save on the scrap that is caused, but it also reduces the likelihood of sending bad product out into your consumer's hands. So one mechanism that we've created is for foreign matter. Normally, if a human is looking for something that doesn't belong within a group of items, any type of widget or food or anything of that nature, they don't need to understand what all of the foreign material actually is. They just need to understand what is good, and anything that is not good is bad. So we took the same approach with our model, meaning that we can apply this same model to anything that has or that needs foreign matter detection. So we just need to have an idea of what does your good product look like, and then we can search for anything that does not fit the good characteristics and flag that. Now, some people will say, well, I've got X-ray machines and metal detectors to do that. Vision is a complement to that, because your X-ray machines and your metal detectors are not necessarily going to find all foreign matter, right? They're good for metallic or some of the other items that may come through, but there are still foreign matter that can get through those systems. So vision doesn't necessarily have to be a standalone option as well. It can tie into other solutions that you have to give an overall better experience. This example was with a customer who was putting a certain number of products in one package. And the challenge was that they consistently would overfill their packages because they would rather have a couple extra pieces of the product in the bag as opposed to shorting a customer. Because anytime a customer purchases something with a quantity listed on the package, they expect at least that number to be in there. So if you are in that same situation, think about how much you could save by limiting the number of overfilled packages you have. In our experience, a lot of the companies are overfilling by 10% or even more, which means for every 10 bags they sell, they're giving away another bag or another package, right? If you can shift that from 10% down to maybe 5 or 2%, that's significant cost savings that can come to someone using a vision system. And one other thing that we were particularly proud of with this use case is you can see that the product is falling through something that is highly reflective. And our data science team, who are incredibly good at what they do, were able to determine the difference between actual product and reflections, which even looking at it in a human perspective, that can be difficult to do. So we do have very, very good data scientists. And all right, next slide. So I'll go through one other thing that we can do is do random sampling distribution. So if you do have a product that has a large quantity, we can, as they're flowing through the camera view, take that random sampling and compare those to what is expected in terms of different qualities of the product. In this case, the customer had a contractual obligation in order to, their product had to fit within certain standards for a percentage of time, and being able to see this in real time allowed their quality team to be more confident that they were meeting those contractual obligations. Aside from contractual obligations, regulatory compliance is a big issue for many companies. With some of the food and beverage manufacturers, we have created code date label inspection, which is very important. And there are new laws and regulations that are planned to be in place next year that make the code date label even more important. So, Vision can help with contractual obligations, regulatory obligations, and is always on, right? So you don't need to have someone constantly checking, or the manual quality checks that you still may want to do. They can be more confident that they're not missing things in between. And in terms of food and bev, making sure that the label is correct can also help in terms of compliance for recalls if they were to happen. From what I've talked about so far, I've mainly focused on items that we used new hardware for, but we can actually use existing security cameras. So if your facility has cameras already in place, we can take advantage of those feeds as well, so long as, again, what the camera is seeing, if that's the information you need, sometimes using those existing cameras is a great way for someone to start looking at what vision can do and lower the overall cost of that initial trial. And then vision, I've mentioned this already, right? Vision can be combined with other sensors. Manufacturers already acknowledge the usefulness of hardware sensors like thermometers or scales. Software sensors, including vision data, produce value as well. And one of the things that we at ClearObject can do is combine the data both from hardware and software sensors to get a more holistic view of everything that's going on within the production process. And more information hopefully leads to better decisions and, more accurate adjustments, which can increase efficiency, ensure product quality, and reduce waste. And with that, I will turn it back over to Todd.
All right. Thank you very much, Chuck. That was really interesting. Thank you for sharing all of that. I'm glad you know all those details. That's some really cool, interesting stuff. So just a couple other slides, and if you have more questions, pop in, please. I know there's been some chats going on that we can summarize quickly, too, before we run out of time. I'm going to jump over the next slide. And this, so Stuart did a great job of covering a lot of this earlier, and I just wanted to throw this up there to remind everybody, put it all into one place. We're here at ClearObject to help you think through this all. So again, AI is a tool to solve production challenges. It's more than just a trendy, cool word. And lots of other companies are out there saying they can fix everything with AI, or they're masters of AI, and they are still more in that we're building something kind of a stage. We here at ClearObject, we've been working with manufacturers for over a decade, solving really interesting and challenging problems with our solutions. So things to keep in mind: the problem you're trying to solve, stay focused on that. Who you need to loop in, the stakeholder buy-in. I liked a lot what Stu had to say about this, how he partners closely with the business, getting them excited, really giving them ownership of the trials. That's a great approach to drive success and get buy-in across the organization. And we've said it a few times now, but again, you don't have to bite off everything at once. Let's pick the right pilot. Let's prove it out, figure out how you can scale. Always be wary of anybody who wants to lock you into a 3, 5, 10-year arrangement before they prove any value. Next slide. Also very excited, today we published our ebook, Leveraging Vision AI in Manufacturing. We'll email that out to all of you guys. I think there's a lot of good information in there to help you think through things. Much of it was covered today, but there's also some more context and things in there. Should be a pretty good read. We'll make sure we get a copy into all of your hands. So I hope that is a useful tool for you on your journey as you explore this. And then Heidi, let me kick it back over to you. Do you want to chat a little bit about what you were chatting with Chris about in there?
Yeah. I think he had a question, Stu. Hold on, let me see if I can get down to it. Has the application, so I think that was more for us. Has the application been applied to a bakery line, monitoring attributes coming out of the ovens? The answer is yes. We have a demo that we can show you. I know that Chuck went through it very easily, but that was the counting demo that we were counting the buns going in and out of the oven via their Schubert. Also, I think Chris was saying he's currently testing AI vision to count pepperoni slices. That's a very easy use case that vision can solve for. And the rejecting piece, I think that was his question to Stu, and he's not there yet in his journey, but at some point, that's where we hope to be. And I don't think I have any other questions or comments from folks, unless anybody wants to chime in real quick. If not, we're almost close to time, so we can give you some time back, or you can stick around and ask some questions.
Yeah, I like what you called out there, as well as how humans see color differently, but you can really hone in on that with Vision AI. So
yeah, I feel like a decade ago, there was a big fight online about the color of a dress, if it was black and white or blue or whatever. So yeah, people definitely see color differently, just depending on lighting. I think to Chuck's point, when he was talking about the candy that was falling in the reflection, a lot of people, when they're looking at a vision system, need to take several factors into account, from lighting to position of the camera to, if you can only see one side, you need to put a camera on the other. I mean, there's a lot of factors that you have to look at with vision, and we're obviously happy to help spec that out and get the best solution for you. So just keep us in mind when you go down that path. And I cannot thank Stuart enough for taking time out of his day to be able to chat with us And if anybody has any questions, comments, anything, just feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to help and engage.
Yeah, and thank you all for joining us. I know you're all busy. I hope this was valuable and useful to you. You can see the email address up here, experts@clearobject.com. If you have any questions or even feedback on this event, we would love to hear it. And we'd love to chat with you about any problems you might be trying to solve. So again, thank you all. Again, really big shout out to Stu, but also thank you, Heidi, and thank you, Chuck. And appreciate your time and your expertise in sharing it with this broad audience. So hope you all have a wonderful holiday season, and please keep your eye out for any future webinars we'll be doing. Thank you all, and have a fantastic day.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.